Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Griffiths, the founder of Ferris Property Investments, and you're listening to the Entrepreneur's Journal. So just please do not forget that I appreciate you. I do. What we're delving into today is how to stress test your character, to identify the weaknesses within your principles, your values, your beliefs, and your habits in general, and strengthening them, pivoting them to where new principles and values can arise within yourself to support you through your life and enhance your character to one that is stronger, more courageous, with more integrity. Now, this is one of my favourite thought experiments to go through, and I started toying with it when I was reading Viktor E. Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, who was a therapist in a Nazi concentration camp, which I've spoken about in previous videos. And as I was reading the book, I could not help but want to literally put my feet in his shoes and walk it as much as I could. Now, I confess, it's obviously not quite the same. It also depends on your creativity, your imagination, what you've experienced. Some of your real life experiences might have stimulated similar anxiety, stresses, and what have you within yourself that you're able to use to better imagine some of these hypothetical scenarios that you're going to put yourself through. And that's what I was doing when I was reading Man's Search for Meaning. I was putting myself through this hypothetical. If I was actually in that camp with a decision where stood before me is someone that I'm personally friends with, and next to him is another prisoner, and all three of us are starving, and I have the option of giving food to myself, although it's going to be a tiny bit and probably not worth it, or not worth it anyway, but I suppose the minuscule amount back then would have been worthwhile to one of those prisoners. Do I give it to my pal, or do I give it to the one who's further along in terms of their deprivation and starvation? What do I do in that situation? What's a morally and ethically correct decision? And what would I personally want to do? And what would I personally want to do within the context of my ethics, my morality, and my principles and values that I stand by? That's one such hypothetical. Other hypotheticals are more tragic, and they're the ones that push you so far to the edge that both of your feet are hanging over it and you're just staring down into the abyss. And these strategies that I want you to play around with in your mind are the ones that would break you, right? And when I'm talking about how dark these hypotheticals and scenarios need to be, the very darkest, the absolute worst. And you know how far I mean when I say the darkest. Take, for example, one that I like to play around with. I get hit by a car. I get hit by a car. And there's a few people around me, and as I am currently, I'm envisioning that I am the same as I am today. It happens, a few people around me, they call it ambulance, but there's no chance the ambulance is going to get there in time for whatever number of reasons it could potentially be. So in essence, I have to come to terms with my own life in that moment. But not just come to terms with my own life, but also, what do I want to leave behind? How do I want my final moments to be? And what's my responsibility to those people around me? Typically, when something like that would happen to us, we want to cry and be in pain, and that natural reaction, although justified I suppose, is going to pass trauma off onto those around you. So those people that saw me get hit by the car, they see me screaming and crying, and I'm saying all these things like, I love my mother, I want to see my mother, oh no, I haven't done X, Y, and Z, my mind's going all over the place. And in general, the people that are around me are like, this is some heavy stuff right now. This person is approaching their end, and I'm just an average human being, and I have no idea what to do, or what to say, oh my god. And then after the event happens, those people are going to have that trauma, and they're going to have to deal with it in their own way as well. And my greatest principle is to lead by example in every single situation, to try to lead by example so that other individuals don't necessarily have to listen to rules that I lay out. They can instead say, okay, he does X, Y, and Z, good, but I kind of disagree with that. Okay, so there's a few qualities from there that I want, some that don't, etc. That's the kind of character that I want to play out continuously for everyone, because that's the moral duty I feel as a human being to everyone else. So going back to me getting hit by a car, the way I would like to leave it is, firstly, I would like to say I want my final words to be something not necessarily memorable, but not what you would expect from someone on about to cross over to the other life, if you will. And I also want to leave behind a sort of message in the way that I handled those final moments, in the way my final words were chosen, that allows other people to say, that is a good example of how to deal with stuff that happens. So what you're doing is playing around with these hypotheticals, trying your very best to call upon all your real life experience where appropriate to help embody that hypothetical. And then you're saying, right, this is something that will crush me, but I'm making a promise to myself that it will not. And then you work backwards from that. Okay, so if this won't crush me, how do I need to interact with that scenario? How do I need to change my character? What new principles or values do I need? Do I need to update any of them? Freshen them up a wee bit so I'm able to actually endure that strategy? That's what you're doing. That's what you're aiming for. Other examples, they're not all impending doom, I suppose, but being in a firefight, what's going around, and I would say for that one, I'm not able to really ground myself particularly well in that one. But through expanding your knowledge and experiences and listening to people that have gone through similar things, and there's no end to individuals you can watch and listen to who have experienced such a wide array of strategies, for you to help try to envision that in a way where you can actually leverage some utility out of the hypothetical scenario. The other link that I want to bring up, and it's also a link to a previous video as well, is talking about strengths and weaknesses, right? Now, I alluded to the fact that weakness is not a strength in itself, but leads you to strength. That is the purpose of weakness. Weakness is not a strength in itself, but it's a call to adventure, and at the end of that adventure you discover strength. That's how weakness works. And you have this increased sensitivity to that particular weakness, wherever it may appear in your life, whether within yourself or within the world. You're more easily able to identify that weakness if you are open about it and accepting of the fact that you have it. You're better able to notice it in the world around you, and that weakness actually becomes a kind of sixth sense for you, if you like. And with strengths, what happens there is they tend to lead you down a blind, dead end. we often become ignorant because we have particular strengths. I definitely experienced that when I was in school. Because I was good at things, naturally good at it, and I didn't have to particularly try. I didn't try. I didn't go above and beyond to really push it. I just allowed it to remain how it was. But your strength, when you actually sit on it and think about it, you're more sensitive to when it's lacking in certain areas. So both weakness and strengths that are specific to you, you have an increased sensitivity to them, as long as you are open-minded about it and open to seeing them as they are and being able to identify where weakness appears and where strength becomes weakness. And through toying with these, in essence, you can more easily identify where you're lacking in your strength or in a weakness, and that's an alarm that's going off, and it's telling you, look, you could be doing better here, so go and do better there. That's the final message of this. It's when you hear a call to adventure, don't be ignorant, don't feign deafness. Actually take up that call to arms and pursue that journey and complete it and get to the end and achieve, well, at the end of the day, it's the hero's journey. A weakness, a call to adventure, the hero rises to it, hero pursues it, goes through a self-discovery, and at the conclusion, the hero is a true hero rather than a naive fool that they tend to start off as. So keep an ear out for those calls to adventure. When you hear them, be honest with yourself and pursue them to the fullest extent within your abilities, so that you may strengthen your abilities and character. Now, the whole point of this is, well, I love sharing my ideas. I'm trying to stress test them, which is keeping the theme of this video, you know. And a part of us being able to expand our thinking is to have open discussion, open conversation, to play around with all these different ideas, contradictions, opposing ideas, and work something out, try to find some truth within it that may enable us to better live our own lives and perhaps leave something better behind us. So please, if you have any thoughts about this, do share them and feel free to privately message me, whether that's LinkedIn or Facebook. It is an open invitation. With that, I wish you a wonderful day. Gents and ladies, have a remarkable day.